Level 1. The old classmate. You sat next to him in math class for exactly 1 year. You were not friends. You just shared a desk, occasionally shared answers, and went your separate ways when the bell rang. That was it. That was the full extent of your relationship with someone who is now worth $340 million. You work in logistics. You drive a 4-year-old car with a dent you keep meaning to fix. Your life is fine, normal, yours. Then someone posts a yearbook compilation video and your face is in it. Suddenly your phone is doing something it has never done before. DMs from complete strangers asking if you can pass along a business pitch. Follow requests from accounts with no photos. A guy offering you $500 just to get him a personal introduction. You make $500 in 2 days doing absolutely nothing except having once sat in the wrong seat in 11th grade. You gain 4,000 followers in 3 days. You lose them in a week when people realize you have nothing to offer. But here is the part nobody talks about. Every December without fail, a wire transfer appears in your bank account. No explanation, no name, just a number that covers your rent for 3 months and a memo that says simply old times. You have never responded. You have never acknowledged it. Because what exactly do you say to someone worth $340 million who still remembers you exist? You don't know. So every December you say nothing, pay your rent, and leave your phone face down on Tuesday mornings when his name starts trending again. Level 2. The childhood friend. You grew up on the same street, same block, same corner shop you both used to steal juice from at 13, same football pitch where you spent every Saturday until life pulled you in different directions. You were genuinely close once. The kind of close that doesn't need explaining. Now you own a restaurant. Not because you always dreamed of the restaurant business. Because 4 years ago he called you out of nowhere, said he wanted to invest in something real, something yours, and wired $200,000 into an account before you finished saying yes. The restaurant has been open 3 years. It is profitable. It employs 11 people. It is genuinely yours in every way except the way that started it. Every food critic who reviews the place mentions him in the second paragraph. Every interview you do includes the question. Every customer who finds out the connection suddenly treats the meal like a tourist attraction. You are grateful. You want that on record first before anything else. But gratitude and ownership are two different feelings, and sometimes they are difficult to hold at the same time. The restaurant is yours. The reason anyone outside your neighborhood knows it exists is not. That gap sits quietly at the back of everything, never loud enough to ruin anything, never small enough to disappear. He comes in sometimes unannounced. No reservation. Just walks in like it's still the old street. Sits at the corner table. Orders the same thing every time. Those are the best days. Those are the days it feels like none of the rest of it exists. Level 3. The younger brother. You are 26 years old and you run his merchandise company which last year generated $18 million in revenue and which every single article about you describes as the brand behind his empire before mentioning your name in the 4th sentence if at all. You did not get handed this. You want people to understand that. You studied. You interned at 2 fashion companies. You learned supply chains, manufacturing, retail margins, the specific mathematics of turning a brand into a business. You brought all of that to the table. The table just happened to already have his name on it. Growing up, you shared a bedroom. He was the talker, you were the builder. He would come up with ideas at midnight and you would figure out by morning whether they were possible. That dynamic has not changed. It has just scaled in ways neither of you fully predicted. Your mother calls every Sunday. She asks about the business, she asks about him, she asks if you are eating properly and sleeping enough. The order of those questions has never bothered you until recently when you started noticing it. He offered to give you full ownership of the merchandise company last year. Signed paperwork, full transfer, yours completely. You said not yet. You were not sure what you were waiting for. You are not sure he is either. But the offer stays open and some nights that feels like the most important thing anyone has ever done for you and other nights it feels like a question you are not ready to answer. Level 4. The day one friend. You were there before the first video, before the first brand deal, before any of it made sense to anyone including him. You used to sit in his bedroom at 2 a.m. watching him edit content for an audience of 200 people and you told him every single time that it was going to work. You were right. For a while that meant something. You traveled with him to the first brand meetings. You were in the room when the first real money arrived. You watched him shake hands with people who 3 years earlier would not have returned his calls, and you felt something that was equal parts pride and relief because you had told him, you had always told him, and here was the proof. Then the rooms got bigger. The team got larger. New people arrived with titles and track records and the specific confidence of people who attach themselves to rising things and know exactly how to make themselves necessary. You did not have a title. You had history. And somewhere between year 2 and year 3 you started to notice that history was not appearing on the meeting invites. The last time you spoke properly was 14 months ago. Not an argument, not a falling out, just a gradual silence that neither of you addressed until the silence became the relationship. You still follow him online. You watch the videos. You see the milestones. Last month he hit 20 million subscribers and the comment section was full of people celebrating someone they had never met, and you sat there knowing exactly which bedroom those first videos were filmed in, knowing the fan that hummed in the background because the room got hot under the lights, knowing things about him that none of those 20 million people will ever know. You did not comment. You closed the app. You went to bed. That is what being the day one friend actually means sometimes. You were there for all of it. And then one day, quietly, without anyone deciding it, you weren't. Level 5. The cousin. You are 19 years old and your university tuition, accommodation, weekly allowance and laptop were all paid for before you could finish asking. The message just said family doesn't struggle when I can help it, and then nothing more because that is how he does things. Your friends think your life is perfect. From the outside it looks that way. New phone every year. Flights home for every holiday. A wardrobe that your roommate photographs when she thinks you're not looking. But here is what the outside cannot see. You cannot post anything without thinking about it 3 times first. His team has never told you this directly. Nobody has sat you down and given you rules. It is more like a weight you developed gradually, an awareness that your name is connected to his name and his name is connected to a brand worth hundreds of millions, and one careless Tuesday night post could become a headline by Wednesday morning. You are 19. Most 19-year-olds are careless on Tuesday nights. That is what being 19 is for. You love him. He shows up for your family in ways that are so consistent and so quiet that most people outside the family never see it. Last Christmas, he flew your mother to a country she had talked about visiting her entire life and said nothing about it publicly. Not a post, not a story, nothing. That is the version of him you hold onto when the weight of the name gets heavy. Level 6. The business partner. You manage $50 million in joint investments across real estate, tech startups, and a private equity fund that the two of you started 18 months ago after a conversation that lasted 40 minutes and ended with both of you shaking hands like the stakes were still small enough for handshakes. You have an MBA. You worked at 2 investment firms before this. You know what you are doing independent of who you are doing it with. That independence matters to you more than it used to. You watched what happened to the editor. You watched what happened to the day one friend. You understand now that proximity to something large does not protect you from the way large things move. They shift direction without announcement. They restructure without sentiment. They grow in ways that occasionally require leaving people behind, not out of cruelty but out of momentum. You have made sure your partnership agreement reflects this understanding. Everything in writing. Everything with counsel involved. Not because you don't trust him. Because you watched people who trusted him completely and had nothing in writing, and you learned something from what happened to them that you could not unlearn. The partnership works. The returns are real. The 2 hours you spend talking about everything except business after monthly meetings are still the best part. You just hold it all slightly differently than you used to. That is the honest answer. You hold it like something valuable that you are also aware could change. Because you have seen it change. And the people it changed for did not see it coming either.